We are back in, folks, on the #1 forum, hottest show on the streets for Crimson Tide football news. That being in my own words, with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Appreciating all of you for tuning into the show on today. And once again, we're dedicating this show to things that Coach Saban mentioned in his Wednesday press conference. So after talking about the guys not opting out, nobody has discussed opting out for the 2020 season. We now look at the next big thing that Saban discussed, which was the wide receiver position, the wide receiver room. Now, of course, defensively, there are some freshmen stepping up on that side of the ball. You've got Will Anderson turning heads, Drew Sanders turning heads, Brian Branch turning heads, Malachi Moore's turning heads. You got some freshmen on the defensive side of the football turning heads. But offensively, Coach Saban talked about how you know what you have in Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle, both of these two veteran players, and they have responded like veteran players on the field at the wide receiver position. Now, behind both of those two, he said John Mechie and Slade Bolden. John Mechie has had a great camp. John Mechie has done some big-time things. John Mechie is going to ball this season. There are a lot of you out there as fans that look at John Mechie as he is the #3 wide receiver to pop in this formation, point blank period. But at the same time, Slade Bolden, that's my dog. Slade Bolden has done some great things in this camp. He's looked good also. He's done some big things also. But while Bolden and Mechie have both been good, Nick Saban mentioned true freshman Javon Baker. Javon Baker talked a lot about Baker on Wednesday, and he said, look, this young man, he's got big promise, he's got big upside, he's got big potential. The continuity with him, doesn't miss a practice. He's out there battling, he's out there competing, he's out there boxing out guys, he's out there making plays on the field. There's a lot of things Nick Saban has been saying about one Javon Baker. This does not mean that Mechie has fallen off or that Bolden has fallen off. Both of these two guys are going to definitely get on the field and ball, but this just means the real competition is even at wide receiver when you got a freshman, getting this type of love here from, head coach Nick Saban. Now, the question here is, if Javon Baker does pop, right? If this is his moment, the young man from Georgia, if this is his moment to pop, at what point could it potentially come, right? Because for a lot of freshmen here, you figure out if they're going to be good or not within the first couple of days of fall camp. And that's because there's a lot of chatter, there's a lot of conversation about that particular freshman. For me, throughout fall camp thus far, when I talk about the wide receivers, just about every practice in which I'm speaking to credible, respectable, sources, people inside the program, the response that I always get back is, Stephen, Baker's doing this, Baker's doing that, Baker, man, Javon Baker this, Javon Baker that. They're not going to keep him off the field. He's that good. And it's like every single practice, you're hearing something about Baker from within the program. And when you hear that, when that's going on, you almost have to ask yourself, at what point can we see this young man pop and really, really, truly do something? Because of the fact that at Alabama, there's been a lot of big freshman players, whether offensively or defensively, that come through this program. But since we are talking about Baker, and since Baker plays on offense, and since he plays at wide receiver, there have been there have been quite a few freshman receivers that have come through this program that have been just absolute monsters. They've been dogs. They've been special. They've been just different in terms of playmakers on the field. And 2008, even with that being the dinosaur offense compared to what we're seeing now with Steve Sarkisian calling the shots, Julio Jones in 2008 was different. Julio Jones in 2008 was special. We hadn't seen anything like Julio Jones. Nothing like this dude. 6'3", 220-some pounds, physical specimen. Could catch, could run, could jump, could break tackles, could do anything on that field. There was nothing even close to the hemisphere of Julio Jones at that time. In 2008, we saw it in the Georgia matchup, the blackout game, where Alabama just destroyed Georgia in that matchup. And Julio Jones in that game, 5 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown. He showed right then and there, I'm a big dude, I'm a bad man, you ain't trying to mess with me, you don't want to mess with me. And that was Julio Jones in 2008. But you look at 2012, Amari Cooper comes in here from Miami Northwestern High School down there in Florida, South Florida, and he was not the physical freak that Julio was, but Amari Cooper had the smooth speed. Amari Cooper had them soft hands. Amari Cooper had them route concepts you could put to memory. And we were like, ooh, look at this. Oh, that cat's special. That cat, I haven't seen a cat like this. I mean, I know Julio Jones, big freakish man, but Coop, I haven't seen anything like this cat before. And Amari Cooper showed you in 2012 against Ole Miss, 8 catches for 84 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then he came back against Tennessee and had a big performance that game, 7 catches for $167, $162, and 2 touchdowns. But then you look at the SEC championship game that year against Georgia. I mean, he caught the 45-yard touchdown pass from A.J. McCarron, and then he just freaking moused Bakari Rambo on a play, just took Bakari's lunch and cookies and juice box from that dude when he just caught the pass over the Bakari Rambo's head. And then the national championship game against Notre Dame, just Amari Cooper went stupid in that game as well. But that was 2012. And then 2015 brought us a freshman in Calvin Ridley from Florida, and though he kind of had the same mindset as Amari Cooper had in terms of the body structure, the size, the route running, Calvin Ridley brought some extra. He was juke moving with it. So we was like, oh, hold on. We haven't seen this before. We saw big Julio. We saw smooth Cooper, but we haven't seen no jukeness. Look at jukeness Ridley out here. Look at this. And, Calvin Ridley against Georgia, 5 catches, $121 touchdown. Evan Calvin went up against Michigan State in that Capital One game, not Capital One, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl, with nuts in that matchup. So Calvin Ridley came through as a freshman doing this thing. And then 2017, you had a crop of receivers, the best receiving core Alabama's ever recruited, with Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs III, and Devontae Smith, and all 3 of those guys brought something different to the table. Jerry Jeudy not only had the juke moves, but he had the dead steak leg there. Put that dead steak leg on defensive backs, getting them out the way, getting up and down the field, busting in and out of his routes. You had Henry Ruggs, just the pure speed. If you let him get going, you're not going to catch him. And then you had Devontae Smith that had just the combination of toughness, of speed, of athleticism, of just clutch hands, big plays, game-winning touchdown catches. And, all 3 of them brought something different, but together, those guys were an absolute force. And then 2018, Jalen Wall, the human joystick, he brought something different to the table as well. So all of these guys, as freshmen, you knew within the first couple of days of fall camp something different about this cat. I can't put my finger on it, but something is different about this brother right here. Something is different about this player right here. Something is very exciting about this player right here. And though we love the older guys, the experienced guys, the veteran players, it's just something about a freshman that comes in here and draws so much attention. We're looking at it, we're going, we want to see that guy on the field. Case in point, with Bryce Young at quarterback. I mean, Mac Jones is highly capable, more than capable of taking this team to a national championship and winning it. But you have a lot of people that say you can't just look away from Bryce Young. Like, that guy, I can't wait to see that guy, on the football field. And it's the same thing here with the wide receivers. John Mechie is going to be a beast. John Mechie's going to be a flat-up dog. Like, I'm the one that said this is Calvin Ridley's Canadian twin, and I'm not coming off of that. I will die on a hill from that statement. Slade Bolden, that's my dog right there. That is my dude right there. But for Nick Saban to say what he had to say about Javon Baker, it's at what point can we see this young man pop and pop for real, for real? It's kind of like those NBA teams that have the big three, and while all three players are important, the camera is always centered around one particular guy. Music groups the same way, the Jackson 5. Everybody in the Jackson 5 was talented, but that camera just stayed on Michael. What Michael gonna do next? When that spin move coming, Michael. When that glove coming, Michael. What you gonna do next, Michael? The camera stayed on Michael Jackson. Even when you look at, Destiny's Child, Kelly Rowland, that was my chick. That was my girl right there. Michelle Williams, that was Bae too. But the camera always stayed on Beyonce, and Queen Bee was always in the middle of the group. The camera always stayed on her. It was being able to not just get the attention, but to also keep that attention, keep people occupied on you. So for Javon Baker, how quickly can he pop? If this is his time, how quickly can he pop? Number one, how quickly can he gain that attention? And then number two, how quickly can he keep that attention centered around him in terms of fans, you guys, in terms of media pundits like myself, constantly watching him on the field. It's just like the documentary of Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. It's one thing to get to the top of the mountain. That's one thing. But it's a completely other monster to figure out, how can I stay on the top of the mountain? How can I sustain? How do I keep myself as the best in the game, especially with competition and new opposition coming for me? How can I keep myself on top? So is this the moment for Javon Baker? Remains to be seen. Good to see Coach Saban talk about him, but Mechie and Bolden, they're not letting this go down without a fight here. We take another break here on the show, but don't touch that dial. Upon our return, we entertain more of your thoughts, your questions, your phone calls, your tweets, your chats. Bring them in here after this.
T-Town Menswear in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month, or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Thank you for watching Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel. To continue to get the best in Alabama football content, subscribe here and turn on your notifications to stay connected with the hottest shows covering your Crimson Tide.